A young millionaire decided to do a surprising test with his fiancée because he didn't trust her enough. He told her that his successful company had gone bankrupt. Her reaction to this revelation shocked him deeply and led to an unexpected twist in their love story. Hello, my friends. I am Linda. I hope you enjoyed this story. Henry, a young successful entrepreneur in the game development industry, was planning to live another day of his usual routine. As usual, he started his day by going to the same sophisticated cafe near his company for breakfast. Henry was recognized as a true genius in the field of gaming, impressing even the most experienced professionals. However, that morning something unexpected happened as he approached the counter to place his order. Calling out to an attendant, his eyes turned to a young woman he had never seen before. This newly hired employee was a true vision of delicacy, with fine and elegant features that immediately caught Henry's attention. He felt momentarily awkward as she came to serve him. Such was the beauty emanating from her. During breakfast, Henry couldn't help but observe every gesture and movement of the girl who captivated him at first sight. As the days went by, he became even more enchanted by Anne. Over time, Henry began to gather courage to strike up a conversation with the young woman. To his joy, she also proved to be friendly and receptive to the young man's conversations. They soon established a special connection, making jokes and playful remarks that made her laugh and appreciate his company. From that moment on, Henry's routine gained a new dimension as he engaged in a sweet game of seduction with the captivating Anne. After many attempts and a few small gifts, Henry finally gathered the courage to ask her out. The girl accepted the invitation enthusiastically, showing sincere interest in getting to know the fine young man. Over time, their relationship began to flourish and they entered into a serious relationship. Anne, coming from a humble and hardworking family, was a student who managed to balance her studies with her job at the cafe. Her effort and determination were admirable, and this only made her more captivating in Henry's eyes. Henry, deeply in love with his girlfriend, felt pleased to use his purchasing power to spoil her. He gifted her with jewelry and expensive presents, encouraging her to take care of herself in beauty salons where she would have hair and nail treatments. Anne, a young woman of simple nature, revealed a taste for vanity that grew with each attention received from Henry. Anne already possessed a natural beauty that impressed everyone around her, but with Henry's constant pampering, her beauty shone even more, attracting looks and compliments wherever she went. One day, Anne was deeply distraught, and Henry, noticing her mood, decided to console her. Anne then told him about the problems that had occurred with her family. Her father had fallen victim to an investment scam that resulted in substantial debt. With his kindness, Henry offered financial assistance to the family, stating that they could repay him gradually. Anne accepted the gesture humbly, as the situation had left her father shaken and burdened with guilt. In the following months, their relationship continued to flourish in a healthy and affectionate manner. Henry, engulfed by intense feelings, finally decided to propose to Anne. With a heart full of passion, she accepted the proposal without hesitation. Henry was determined to do everything in his power to please Anne. He had noticed that Anne was often tired, struggling to meet the necessary grades. He then proposed to her to quit her job at the cafe, ensuring her a comfortable life free from deprivation. Anne accepted the proposal, seeing the opportunity to have more time to dedicate to her studies and achieve excellence in her education. However, as their relationship prospered, some external people began to judge Anne's behavior, accusing her of being materialistic. For those who knew their love story closely, it was clear that Anne was committed to their relationship for much deeper reasons than mere material benefits. On a certain day, Henry went out with his friends. A conversation among them turned to Henry's relationship with Anne. They wanted to make comments about the interests of his fiancée and whether Henry truly trusted her. One of the friends dared to say, "Don't you think she's too beautiful for you?" "That's kind of weird." Although Henry tried to ignore the comment, those words echoed in his mind. After all, they were about to get married, and he wanted to make sure Anne had no ulterior motives. Concern took over Henry, and he found himself contemplating how to test Anne's loyalty. He devised a risky plan to tell her that his company had gone bankrupt to assess her reaction to adversity. The next day, Henry called Anne for a serious conversation and began to explain the situation. "Anne, I think we might need to postpone our wedding. My company lost all its investors and went bankrupt. I had to spend all the money on fines, employees, and other costs." Anne's expression was one of absolute shock, and a heavy silence fell between them. It seemed she was at a loss for words, unsure how to react or what to say. Anne's face clearly showed surprise and frustration. She then said, "It will be okay, Henry. You'll get through this," and asked to go home, claiming not to feel well, promising they would talk later. Henry experienced a deep sense of unease. On the night he revealed his company's supposed bankruptcy to Anne, he noticed a cold expression on her face, which made him fear a negative reaction. His friend's comments echoed in his mind, increasing his doubts about Anne's sincerity. The next morning, upon waking up, Henry sent a message to Anne but received no response. The lack of communication left him extremely sad, fueling his growing suspicions. Henry continued trying to contact her throughout the day, sending several messages, but Anne remained silent. He decided to call her in the mid-afternoon, but her phone was turned off. With a heavy heart, Henry went to lunch with a friend, where he explained the situation. His friend commented with a resigned tone, "We knew she would disappear if you said you went bankrupt." This statement left Henry conflicted, torn between the anguish that it might be true and the growing anger at feeling deceived by Anne. That afternoon was truly difficult for Henry, who decided to leave work early, shaken by what was happening. It seemed Anne had abandoned him without a second thought. The night brought an unexpected surprise when his phone rang. Upon answering, Henry was surprised to see Anne on the other end of the line. Her nervousness was palpable as he eagerly awaited what she had to say. Anne spoke with a cheerful voice. "Darling, I'm sorry my phone died all day because I was out dropping off resumes." Henry, still bewildered, asked, "What do you mean, Anne? Dropping off resumes? Where?" With a soft voice and sincerity, Anne replied to Henry with an explanatory tone. "Henry, yesterday I was so saddened to hear about your company's bankruptcy that I actually wanted to cry. However, I didn't want to show so much sadness and to not make you even more upset. I asked to leave." Then, very excitedly, she continued, "I want to repay everything you've done for me in tough times. I spent the whole day looking for a job to help you out, and guess what? I've already found one." Henry, completely shocked and moved, immediately asked to meet her. The two came together in a warm and relieved embrace for Henry, who finally understood the motivation behind Anne's behavior. In a moment of calm after the hug, Anne spoke about the beauty of simple life and how they could grow together regardless of financial situations. Henry, feeling deeply remorseful and ashamed, decided to share the truth with her. He admitted that the company hadn't gone bankrupt and apologized for letting others' opinions lead him to test Anne in this way. Henry's confession left Anne deeply disappointed and offended, feeling betrayed by her fiancé's lie. She asked Henry to leave as she needed time to reflect on what had happened and how it would affect their relationship. That delicate moment was a turning point in Henry's life, as it made him deeply reflect on the relationship he shared with Anne. Recalling the beginning of it all, Henry thought about how Anne was when they first met. She was a simple, extremely beautiful, and highly hardworking young woman. As their relationship with Henry progressed, he tried to give her gifts and offer the best he could. When Anne's family faced difficulties, Henry was also the first to lend a helping hand. It was then that Henry realized something crucial. Throughout all that time, Anne never demanded anything nor took advantage of his generosity. She simply accepted the love and care he offered, demonstrating genuine gratitude. Filled with regret, Henry spent a sleepless night with heavy thoughts about how he had tested Anne and the lack of trust he had shown. At dawn, he was determined not to lose Anne, confirming that their relationship was truly special. Anne's attitude in seeking a job to help him in a difficult time had proven that she was by his side regardless of the situations. Upon finding Anne, he embraced her and with tears in his eyes, begged for her forgiveness. "Anne, you are the love of my life. Please forgive me. What we have is very special." With compassion and love, Anne accepted her fiancé's apologies, and together they grew even stronger. Henry and Anne's wedding day became an emotional celebration. It was the celebration of a true love that endured tough tests and proved to be stronger than any adversity. It was a day of joy, gratitude, and hope, marking the beginning of a new journey for the couple where they would face together whatever life threw at them. Love triumphed over adversity and proved that snap judgments and others' opinions cannot define a true and solid relationship. The story highlights how lack of trust and communication can affect relationships, but it also shows how forgiveness and understanding can change the course. Henry and Anne faced challenges due to doubts and external influence, but in the end, they overcame these difficulties and built a stronger relationship, emphasizing the importance of trust, communication, and resilience. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.
"Let's keep our marriage private from now on," Marcus said casually over dinner. His words hit me like a bomb. After 15 years together, he suddenly wanted to keep our marriage a secret. I stared at him, my fork frozen in the air. "Private?" I repeated. "Why?" Marcus shifted in his chair, avoiding my eyes. "It's for work. My new promotion. It's complicated." I watched him closely. His fingers tapped nervously on the table. He had been acting strange lately, working late, glued to his phone, suddenly obsessed with the gym. I had ignored the signs, but now I couldn't anymore. "Of course," I said softly. He sighed in relief, thinking I believed him. That night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed. I wasn't the type to check his messages, but something felt off. A preview flashed on the screen. "Can't wait for next week, baby. Found the perfect dress for our ceremony." My stomach dropped. My hand steady. I picked up the phone and unlocked it. Message after message filled the screen. Marcus had been planning a secret wedding with Emma, his 24-year-old assistant. He didn't want a divorce because he didn't want to split our assets. Instead, he planned to marry Emma in a private ceremony while keeping me as his legal wife. Just on paper. I put the phone back exactly as I found it. Then I opened my laptop and started typing. I emailed Linda, my best friend and a private investigator. Then James, my lawyer brother. Finally Sarah, Marcus's boss and an old friend of mine. "Looking forward to coffee tomorrow," I wrote to Sarah. "There's something about your new assistant you should know." When Marcus came to bed, he kissed my forehead. "I love you," he whispered. I kept my breathing steady, pretending to be asleep. He had no idea that by tomorrow, his secret plan would start falling apart. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye as usual. As soon as he drove off, I called Linda. "Got your email," she said. "Your husband's been busy. Let's meet for coffee." An hour later, I sat with Linda, looking at the evidence she had gathered. Pictures of Marcus and Emma, money transfers to a secret account, $200,000 so far. They booked Silver Lake Resort for their ceremony next Saturday, Linda said. Emma's been telling people she's marrying a divorced man. I sipped my coffee. "And the money?" Linda nodded. "He's been moving small amounts to keep it hidden." My phone buzzed. Sarah confirming our lunch. Another step in my plan. I thought about the years I had spent building a life with Marcus. While I was planning our future, he was planning his escape. But he made one big mistake. He underestimated me. As I drove to meet Sarah, My phone buzzed again. A message from Marcus. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I smiled and replied, of course, honey, take all the time you need. He had no idea his plan was already crumbling. I grabbed my folder of evidence and walked into the building, ready to take back control of my life. Sarah's face darkened as she looked through the photos and messages I'd brought. I knew something was off about their dynamic, she said, setting down her coffee. Emma's been pushing for a promotion, and Marcus has been supporting it aggressively. Now I understand why. I watched my friend process the information, her expression shifting from shock to anger. As chief operating officer, Sarah had been the one to promote Marcus to department head last year. She trusted him, mentored him. The ceremony is next Saturday, she asked, her voice tight. I nodded. At Silver Lake Resort, they're telling everyone he's divorced. Sarah picked up her phone, typing quickly. Not anymore. I just canceled their venue reservation. Being COO has its perks. Silver Lake Resort is one of our corporate partners. But that was just the beginning. Over lunch, Sarah revealed more about Marcus's recent business dealings. He'd been pushing for complete control over the department's budget, unusual for his position. Now we knew why. He'd been planning to access more funds. I'm launching a formal investigation into his financial decisions, Sarah said. And Emma, well, let's just say her position is under review. Back at home, I maintained my routine. When Marcus called to say he'd be missing dinner again, I responded with understanding. Don't work too hard, honey, I said sweetly, while simultaneously emailing his financial records to my brother James. The next morning, my phone rang early. It was James, his voice urgent. Liv, you need to see this. Those transfers Marcus has been making, they're not just going to a private account. He's been investing in properties under Emma's name. My hands clenched around the phone. Using our money. Your money, James corrected. Most of the transfers came from the account linked to your photography studio. He's been systematically moving your business profits. I closed my eyes, feeling a cold anger settle in my chest. The photography studio was my life's work, built from years of dedication and sacrifice. Marcus had been dipping into it to build a nest egg with his girlfriend. What do you need from me? James asked. Everything, I replied. Every document, every transfer, every property purchase. I want it all traced and documented. The next few days passed in a blur of calculated moves. While Marcus thought I was working at my studio, I was actually setting up meetings with financial advisors and lawyers. Linda kept tracking their movements, providing regular updates about their scrambling attempts to salvage their ceremony plans. They've tried booking 3 other venues, she reported. Each one mysteriously canceled. Emma's getting frustrated. She keeps posting angry messages about people interfering with true love. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost, but then I remembered the messages, the way they laughed about deceiving me, planning to reduce my marriage to nothing but paperwork while they lived their perfect life using my money. Thursday evening, Marcus came home looking stressed. The ceremony was supposed to be in 2 days, and nothing was going as planned. I watched him pick at his dinner, dark circles under his eyes. Rough day, I asked innocently. He ran a hand through his hair. Just work stuff, nothing for you to worry about. Of course not, I smiled. Oh, by the way, Sarah called earlier. She mentioned something about a department audit. Marcus's fork clattered against his plate. Sarah called you. What? What did she say? Not much, I shrugged. Just checking in. We're having lunch tomorrow, actually. It's been too long since we caught up. The color drained from his face. I continued eating calmly, watching him try to maintain his composure. His phone kept buzzing. Probably Emma, panicking about their ruined plans. I need to make a call, he muttered, rushing from the table. I could hear him in the other room, his voice urgent and hushed. We need to postpone. No, listen to me. Everything's falling apart. I don't know how. While he was distracted, I forwarded Linda's latest report to Sarah and James. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial misconduct, misuse of company resources, unauthorized fund transfers. Marcus hadn't just planned to betray our marriage, he compromised his professional integrity in the process. That night, as we lay in bed, Marcus reached for my hand, something he hadn't done in months. I let him take it, feeling his palm sweaty against mine. Liv, he said softly, you know I love you, right? I turned to look at him, This man I'd loved for 15 years, who'd planned to reduce our life together to a secret shame while he built a new life with someone else. Of course, I replied, my voice steady. We should keep that private too, shouldn't we? He flinched at my words but said nothing. We both lay there in silence, but while he was probably worrying about his crumbling plans, I was thinking about tomorrow. About Sarah's scheduled department meeting, about the documents waiting in James' office, about the truth that was about to shatter Marcus's carefully constructed facade. Tomorrow, he would learn that keeping our marriage private had been his biggest mistake, because while he'd been planning his new life with Emma, I'd been ensuring he'd lose everything he was trying to steal from me. I closed my eyes, listening to his uneasy breathing beside me. In less than 24 hours, his perfect plan would completely unravel, and I would be wide awake to watch it all unfold. Friday morning arrived with a storm, both literally and figuratively. Marcus left early for work, kissing my cheek absently. I might be late tonight, he said, not meeting my eyes. Actually, I replied, grabbing my car keys, I'm heading to the office too. Sarah invited me to sit in on the department meeting. He froze, his hand on the doorknob. What department meeting? Oh, didn't she tell you? The whole team's gathering at 9. Something about financial reviews and policy changes. I smiled, watching the color drain from his face. I'll see you there, honey. I arrived at the office building just as Sarah was gathering everyone in the conference room. Emma was there, her young face glowing with artificial confidence. She faltered when she saw me, quickly looking away. Marcus sat rigidly in his chair, his eyes darting between me, Emma, and Sarah. Sarah stood at the head of the table, her expression professional but stern. Thank you all for coming. We're here to address some serious concerns about departmental conduct and financial irregularities. The next hour was a masterclass in professional demolition. Sarah methodically outlined every unauthorized transfer, every misused resource, every breach of company policy. With each revelation, Marcus seemed to shrink in his chair while Emma's perfect makeup couldn't hide her growing panic. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we've discovered evidence of an inappropriate relationship between a department head and his subordinate, including the misuse of company funds to purchase properties under false pretenses. Emma burst into tears. He told me he was divorced. He said the money was his. Marcus finally found his voice. This is a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Please do, I said quietly, speaking for the first time. Explain how you plan to marry your girlfriend while keeping me as your legal wife. Explain how you use my studio's profits to buy properties for your new life. I'm particularly interested in hearing about the private ceremony planned for tomorrow. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to Marcus, then to me, then to Emma, who had suddenly stopped crying. You knew? Marcus stammered. Of course I knew, I replied calmly. I've known since the moment you asked to keep our marriage private. I just waited to see how far you'd go. Sarah cleared her throat. Marcus, Emma, please proceed to HR. Security will escort you. The rest of you are dismissed. As people filed out, some offering me sympathetic glances, others avoiding eye contact entirely, Marcus made one last desperate attempt. Liv, please, he begged. We can talk about this. We can fix things. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Fix things. Like how you plan to fix our marriage by making it a secret, or how you fixed my business accounts by emptying them. I was going to pay it back, he protested weakly. No need, I replied. The company's legal team has already frozen all the accounts and properties. My brother James is handling the recovery of my assets, and since you're so interested in keeping things private, I'm sure you'll appreciate the discretion of the divorce proceedings. Emma, who had been quietly edging toward the door, suddenly turned back. You can't do this. We're in love. I looked at this young woman, barely older than an intern, who thought she could build her happiness on the ruins of my life. Love? You don't even know him, the real him, but you will now. Security arrived to escort them out. As they left, I heard Emma's voice rising hysterically in the hallway. What do you mean the properties aren't in my name? What about the money you promised? I sat alone in the conference room for a moment, letting the morning's events settle. Sarah returned, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. You know what's funny? He really thought he was being clever, keeping our marriage private while he built a new life. He never realized he was giving me exactly what I needed: time to protect myself. That evening, I returned to an empty house. Marcus's belongings would be collected later under supervision. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my favorite chair, the one with the perfect view of the garden I planted when we first moved in. My phone buzzed with a message from Linda. Emma's posting on social media again. Something about betrayal and true love being crushed by cruel manipulators. Want me to send screenshots? I replied with a simple "no need" and turned off my phone. The storm had passed, and in its wake, I found not devastation but clarity. Marcus had wanted to keep our marriage private, hidden away like a shameful secret. Instead, he hid in himself. His true nature, his dishonesty, his betrayal. 2 months later, my divorce was finalized with little fanfare. Marcus, facing company investigations and legal proceedings for financial misconduct, agreed to my terms without argument. Emma had long since disappeared, probably in search of another divorced man to rescue. I kept the house, my studio, and every penny he tried to steal. More importantly, I kept my dignity. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making a scene or fighting back loudly. It's quietly dismantling someone's perfect plan while they think you're in the dark. Marcus had wanted privacy. In the end, that's exactly what he got: the privacy to reflect on his choices alone. Marcus shoved a stack of papers onto the kitchen table at 2 a.m. Sign here, here, and here, he ordered, tapping the pages. His voice was cold, like he was talking to a stranger, not his wife of 8 years. I looked at him, messy hair, tired eyes, and the faint smell of perfume on his shirt. Now, Emma, he snapped, pushing a pen toward me. I don't have all night. The kitchen, once filled with warm memories, now felt like an interrogation room. You get nothing, he continued with a smirk. No alimony, no property. You leave with what you came in with. I took the pen and calmly signed each page. Marcus watched, expecting tears or protests. Instead, I felt relief. He had no idea I'd been preparing for this moment. I had noticed the signs: late nights, secret texts, password changes. But 6 months ago, a lipstick stain on his collar confirmed my suspicions. That night, I called Diana, my best friend, who was a paralegal, and James Mitchell, the best divorce lawyer in town. "You're making this easy," Marcus said, gathering the papers. "I thought you'd fight." I smiled, thinking about the documents hidden in my safety deposit box and the proof I had collected over 3 months. "Why fight? You made your choice." He hesitated, not used to my confidence. "Megan's different," he said. "She's ambitious, not stuck in a boring teaching job." I thought of my students, my investments, and the future I had carefully planned. "I hope she's everything you want." Marcus stuffed the papers into his briefcase and pulled out his phone, probably texting Megan about his win. "Don't try anything stupid, Emma," he warned. As he walked to the door, I said, "Marcus." He stopped. "You might want to read what you just had me sign." He scoffed, but I saw a flicker of doubt. "I know what's in them. I wrote them myself." "Did you?" I asked. "Or did your friend Steve from the golf club do it?" His face darkened. "How did you?" "Good night, Marcus," I said, turning to make tea. After you left, I sat at the table, hands around my mug. I had spent months gathering proof, setting the trap. Marcus thought he was outsmarting me, but he never saw it coming. Steve, his so-called legal expert, was a fraud. My lawyer James figured it out immediately. Those papers Marcus forced me to sign, they weren't what he thought they were. I sent 2 texts. To Diana, "It's done," he took the bait. To James, "Time for phase 2. Then I went upstairs to pack Marcus's things. By morning, he would realize the truth. But tonight, I smiled, knowing he had just signed away everything, without even reading the fine print. The first call came at 7:15 a.m. I watched Marcus's name flash across my phone screen as I sipped my morning coffee on the porch. 4 calls, straight to voicemail. Then the texts started. "What did you do? These aren't the right papers. Answer your fate only." I set my phone aside and watched the sunrise, thinking about the exact moment Marcus would be realizing what he'd done. The divorce papers he'd had me sign weren't divorce papers at all. They were documents transferring all our joint assets into my name, along with a sworn statement admitting to his infidelity and financial misconduct. Deanna arrived at 8 a.m., right on schedule. "How are you holding up?" she asked, setting her laptop on the kitchen table. "Better than Marcus, I guess," I replied, showing her the stream of increasingly frantic messages on my phone. "He just called the office," Diana said, a smile playing at her lips. "James told him he'd be happy to meet with him next week." You should have heard him spluttering. The doorbell rang at 8:30. Marcus stood there, still wearing yesterday's clothes, his face a mix of rage and panic. "What the hell did you make me sign?" he demanded. I stepped aside, letting him enter. Diana's presence at the kitchen table made him falter. "Who's she?" "Diana Peterson, paralegal for Mitchell and Associates," Diana said professionally. "Please have a seat. We have some matters to discuss." Marcus's face went pale. "Mitchell and Associates, James Mitchell's firm?" "The very same," I said quietly. "Coffee?" He ignored my offer, pulling the papers from his briefcase and slapping them on the table. "These aren't the divorce papers Steve prepared. You switched them." "No, Marcus," I corrected him. "Those are exactly the papers you brought last night. You just never bothered to read them carefully. Too busy texting Megan, I suppose." Diana opened her laptop. "Mr. Turner, shall we review what you've actually signed? First, there's the transfer of all joint assets into Mrs. Turner's name, which you've authorized with your signature on pages 3, 7, and 12. Then there's your sworn statement regarding your affair with Megan Porter, including dates, locations, and financial records of gifts purchased using joint funds." Marcus collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. "This isn't legal. I'll fight it." "With Steve's help?" I asked innocently. "Your unlicensed friend who's currently under investigation for practicing law without a license? That should go well." "You set me up," he whispered. "No, Marcus, you set yourself up. I just made sure everything was documented properly." Diana pulled out another folder. "We also have evidence of your attempt to defraud Mrs. Turner by presenting false legal documents in the middle of the night, which I should mention was captured on the security cameras installed 3 months ago." Marcus's head snapped up. "What cameras?" I gestured to the subtle lens in the corner of the kitchen. "Amazing what you don't notice when you're feeling superior." "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "For revenge?" "For protection," I corrected him. "I gave you 8 years of my life, Marcus. I supported your career, managed our home, and believed in our future. And you repaid that by trying to leave me with nothing." Diana slid a new set of papers across the table. "These are the actual divorce papers, properly prepared by Mitchell and Associates. You'll find the terms quite different from what you had in mind." Marcus stared at the papers, his hands shaking. "I don't have to sign these." "True," I agreed. "But then we'll proceed with charges of attempted fraud, and Steve will likely face serious legal consequences for his part in this. Your choice." "You can't prove." "Actually," Diana interrupted, turning her laptop to show him, "we can prove everything. The surveillance footage, your text messages to Steve about planning this, the illegal documents he prepared. Would you like to see more?" Marcus slumped in his chair, the full weight of his situation finally hitting him. "I'll lose my job if this gets out." "You should have thought about that before trying to ambush your wife with fake papers at 2 a.m., Diana said crisply. I watched my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, as the reality of his position sank in. The man who'd smirked at me just hours ago, so confident in his superiority, now looked small and defeated. "You have 24 hours to review these papers with a proper attorney," I said, standing up. "After that, we proceed with fraud charges. Oh, and Marcus, the next time you try to trick someone into signing something in the middle of the night, make sure they're not smarter than you." He gathered the papers with trembling hands and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Emma, Save it," I cut him off. "Your 24 hours start now." After you left, Diana turned to me with a grin. That went even better than we expected. I sat down, finally letting out the breath I'd been holding. "Think he'll sign?" "He'd be an idiot not to," she replied. "Though he's already proven he's capable of making monumentally stupid decisions." I picked up my phone, now silent after hours of constant buzzing. The last text from Marcus simply read, "You've changed." "No," I whispered to myself. "I just stopped letting you believe I was less than you." Marcus signed the papers exactly 23 hours and 12 minutes after leaving our house. James called to inform me while I was grading papers in my classroom after school. He tried to negotiate, James said, amusement clear in his voice. But when I mentioned the video footage of him trying to coerce you into signing fraudulent documents at 2 a.m., he became remarkably cooperative. I looked around my classroom at the student artwork decorating the walls and the math problems still written on the whiteboard. This dead-end teaching job had given me more satisfaction than Marcus could ever understand. What about Megan? I asked, thinking of the young intern who'd fallen for Marcus's promises. She was quite interested to learn she wasn't the first, James replied. Apparently, her documentation of his previous affairs was quite thorough. She's already cleared out her desk at the office. That evening, Diana came over with a bottle of wine to help me pack up the last of Marcus's things. Have you heard about Steve? She asked, carefully wrapping a photo frame. Is Golf Buddy the fake lawyer? No, what happened? The Bar Association is investigating him. Turns out you weren't the first person he tried to scam with fraudulent legal documents, but you were the first one smart enough to catch him. I sat down on the couch, thinking about how differently things could have gone if I hadn't noticed that first lipstick stain, if I hadn't made those crucial phone calls, if I had remained the passive, accommodating wife Marcus thought I was. You know what's funny? I said, twirling my wine glass. Marcus always claimed I was bad with details. Said that's why I was just a teacher instead of someone ambitious like him. But it was the details that brought him down. A week later, I received an email from Marcus's company. The board had reviewed the evidence of his misconduct, including his attempt to fraudulently force his wife to sign away her rights at 2 a.m., and decided his position as chief financial officer was no longer tenable. Your detailed records were quite helpful, the HR director wrote. We're conducting a full audit of his department. I forwarded the email to James, who responded with a single line. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being thorough. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I kept the house, half of Marcus's pension, and most importantly, my dignity. Marcus moved to a smaller city to work for a much smaller company, his reputation in shambles after the truth about his attempted fraud came out. Megan tried to contact me once, wanting to explain her side. I sent back a simple response. The security cameras caught your side quite clearly. She never wrote again. 1 year after that night in the kitchen, I sat in the same spot where Marcus had tried to strip me of everything. But now the house was truly mine, redecorated to my taste without Marcus's sophisticated preferences overshadowing mine. Deanna joined me for dinner, bringing a small gift-wrapped package. Happy Independence Day, she said with a grin. Inside was a frame containing the security camera photo from that night, Marcus smugly pushing papers across the table, not knowing he was documenting his own downfall. A reminder, Diana said, that sometimes the best defense is letting your opponent think they're winning. I hung the photo in my home office, next to my teaching certificates and a note from a former student thanking me for believing in them. It served as a reminder that strength doesn't always look like what people expect. Last week, I ran into Marcus's mother at the grocery store. She started to turn away, but I called out a greeting. I heard you got a promotion, she said stiffly. Head of the elementary school curriculum department. Yes, I replied. Turns out being good with details is valuable in education too. She nodded, then hesitated. Marcus he's not doing well. That young girl left him for someone more successful. That's unfortunate, I said sincerely. I hope he learns from it. As I walked away, I heard her murmur, we all underestimated you. That night, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Marcus. I'm sorry, I should have appreciated what I had. I looked at his message for a long moment, thinking about the man who had stormed into our kitchen that night, so certain of his superiority, so confident in his plan to leave me with nothing. Thank you for the apology, I wrote back, but you were wrong that night. I didn't get nothing in the divorce. I got myself back. Then I blocked his number, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Sometimes the best victory isn't in fighting back, it's in being prepared, being patient, and letting karma do its work. Marcus had tried to write me off as simple, unambitious, and easily manipulated. Instead, he learned that underestimating someone is the biggest mistake you can make, especially when that someone has been taking notes all along.